you have questions and answers session or contributions. Am I right?
Hello? Very right, sir. Yes, you're very correct, sir.
Right. So let us roll. Oh, hello. It's been difficult getting steady Wi-Fi connection this morning. It's been back and forth, but I guess. Okay, so which one do I press? This. Okay. Hello. So after looking at the topic which was assigned me, and whilst thinking through, I came up with a restatement of the topic. It said, employee value proposition, a catalyst for improved productivity and employee performance. Not too different from the original, but at least it serves as a catalyst. The EVP, the employee value proposition, will serve as a catalyst for improved productivity and employee performance. All right? So just a little variation from what we started with. In terms of content, we are going to look at employee value proposition, the benefits of employee value proposition, the concept of productivity, the concept of performance, the causal relationship amongst the concepts. And we look at factors that we take into account in formulating an employee value proposition. Then we have a model from the Harvard Business Review, the 4 elements of employee value proposition. Then we will give you examples of companies that are using value propositions that are actually attractive to employees. And then the pitfalls in formulating employee value proposition. So that is a tall order. That's the menu before us this morning. Any comments, any contributions? Hello, participants. Any comments so far? The topic and then the contents. Hello?
We cannot hear you, sir. You are good, sir. We cannot hear you.
Hello. Hello, Doc. Okay. I think it's in order.
All right. So then I'll carry on. So then overview of the concepts and the interrelationships. So we are looking at employee value proposition, its impact on productivity and employee performance, which then leads to the business results. At the end of the day, if you have motivated workforce, they work hard and we are able to achieve business results. So there is that causal relationship. Productivity, employee performance, and then business performance or business results, right? So again, employee value proposition, productivity, and performance. There are some presumptions I want to start with. When employees are motivated, they will work to promote productivity and employee performance. That motivation is a summation of all what an employee value proposition contains in terms of attraction and retention of employees. That is to say that the more attractive and competitive, the more likely we are to attract and retain employees. Note that employee value proposition is a dynamic, and as employee expectations change with time. So what you come up with as your employee value proposition may apply for a period, but beyond a certain period, you see that the expectations of the employees have changed. And so you have to go back to the drawing board and rework the value proposition. What is the objective of this whole presentation as given to me by the organizers? They wanted to understand the concept, practices, and benefits of the employee value proposition, articulate components of an employee value proposition that will drive performance and creativity, provide opportunity for a discourse on pitfalls in design and communication of employee value proposition to highlight how African businesses can retain best brains or talents using an employee value proposition. So then what is this animal called employee value proposition? Essentially, it refers to what your business brings to the table in exchange for your employees' work. So it's an offer and acceptance situation, if we're talking law. So what you are bringing, you as the employer, you are bringing to the table in exchange for the employees' sweat, competencies, talents, skills. So in effect, it is a value exchange kind of concept. I offer you something in return for something. What in law we call consideration. For a valid contract to be sealed, you need an offer, you need an acceptance, and then consideration. What you lose as a party in return for what you are gaining. All right. So you suffer to gain, and that is the consideration. So the employee value proposition, in effect, is a value exchange kind of situation. And if you work it out well, it is what the employer sets the it is what sets the employer apart from his competitors and attracts and retains talents. So the better your EVP, the more capable you are to attract the best talent and retain them. Not just attracting, but retaining them. You know, the cost of recruitment can be high with regard to certain talents. And therefore, you do it once and for all and attract the best of brains, all right? So essentially, what you bring to the table in exchange for your employees' work. Again, it is that unique set of benefits and rewards that an organization offers to its employees in exchange for their skills, capabilities, and commitment. The overall value that an employee receives from working at a particular company, encompassing not just monetary compensation, but also factors such as career development opportunities, work-life balance, company culture, perks and benefits, and flexibility, for instance, in working from home, as against the traditional situation where you always have to come to the office to work. These are all aspects of the employee value proposition, what we offer as employers in return for the skills and the competencies of the employee. I have a gentleman in Ghana who is heading one of the leading banks in this country. He left the shores of Ghana after sixth form, went to America to study. He took up a job with the Canadian Imperial Bank of Commerce and worked his way through the ranks to a manager level. And then he plateaued. You know, for just the fact that for the sake of his color, there was a glass ceiling. He couldn't go beyond the manager level. And so he was getting frustrated. He started looking at adverts for jobs in Ghana. He realized a bank in Ghana was looking for somebody in risk management. So he came to Ghana, took up the position, fortunately as a chief operating officer. And later on, maybe 2-3 years down the road, he became the deputy chief executive and then the chief executive or the managing director. All right. So the value proposition in Canada was far different from the value proposition in Ghana. In Ghana, there was no glass ceiling. He could go as far as the career plan or the succession plan of the company will permit. But in Canada, you get up to a point and you cannot go beyond, regardless of your skills, your willingness, and your disposition towards working towards the realization of the company's goals, all right? So you see that the value proposition in Ghana was totally different. A very free and robust system of progression and terminal points, and nothing will impede you from getting to the very highest level for as far as you perform. In Canada, for the sake of perhaps you're not being a Canadian and coming from Africa and all that, you get to a point and you cannot go any further. All right. Then the case of my son, who studied economics in Ghana, went to Warwick University and studied economics, passed, selected by the Standard Chartered Bank of Ghana. He came to Ghana 2 years after he joined a group in London. And as we speak, he is the one in charge of the West African desk in Standard UK. All right. So unlike, say, Canada and other countries, there is no barrier to one's progression, and he has opportunities to grow further. So such is the nature of the employee value proposition. Money aside, total compensation aside, we are looking at non-monetary offers or benefits, allowances, the benefits and all that. For instance, at a point in time, I was working for Ashanti Goldfields, Ghana Limited, which is now Anglo Gold Ashanti. And I was given the opportunity to own shares, and therefore one became more kind of attached to the company, woven into the fabric of the company. So these are some of the value propositions that workers, as prospective employees and existing workers look out for, right? So now let us look at the concept of productivity. You have three concepts here: the employee value proposition, productivity, and then employee performance. So what is productivity? A measure of how resources available for producing goods and services are used. So essentially, it's input-output relationship. All right? So it's a measure of how resources are used in producing goods and services. So the higher the output, higher the productivity of the enterprise. All right? But then productivity is not just output over input, but it's also a state of mind involving an attitude of progress and continuous improvement in existing situations. So we are all aiming at becoming better workers and ensuring higher productivity from our efforts, given the resources available, how we churn out to get the output. And it's a state of continuous improvement. It is a belief that we will do better today than yesterday. We are not too sure about the future because the equation is very fluid. Productivity does not mean working more, but working better. It's measured in terms of effectiveness and efficiency. And the human factor is most critical to productivity, the efficiency with which we deliver. You know, the factors that affect productivity include our ability, the technical ability, the skills and the competencies to manage the process. Beyond ability, we are also looking at our level of motivation, our individual needs and interests.
Doc, you are muted, sir. You are muted. You are muted. You need to unmute. Help you unmute. Yes, Doc is muted.
We can't hear Doc.
Yes, yes. Doc, you are muted. I think up there you're.
Oh, we can't hear anything.
Yes, he's muted, but I'm
It's muted. I think it's his micro that have the issue.
Just hold on. We'll get him on. Okay, I think he wants to get someone to help him to mute. Can mute. Let me see. Okay, you just need to unmute, sir. You're actually muted. Can I help him to unmute? On the top left, sorry, top right, you're going to see a mic, something like a mic. Just click on it. Top right, beside leave. Top right, right beside share. Yeah, okay, you're good now. We can hear you. We can hear you now.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you now. We can hear you.
I was unmuted, so I was
No,
struggling.
sir.
They have shown me. Okay, so
you're good.
So where did I stop? Where did it stop?
He just were muted for like some seconds. Really.
Muted again.
Then you can share your screen.
What did I get to? What? Hello? Hello?
We can hear you now, sir. We can hear you. But you need to share your screen again. You can just share your screen. Share your screen.
All right.
Again.
Are we good to go?
Yeah, we are good to go. We're actually on factors affecting productivity. You were explaining the ability when we stopped.
Yes. I have a young man here helping me. Good morning.
It's muted again, no?
Yes, you're muted again. Okay. Apologies, please. It's going to come in. Just let's give him some seconds. Is actually, I think he's trying to join again. Yeah, he's back in the meeting now. Okay. So Doc, you are back in the meeting, really. Yeah. But you are still muted, so you can just unmute.
Hello.
We can hear you
Hello.
now, loud and we can hear you loud and clear.
Right. So we were on the subject of productivity or the element of productivity. We were talking about ability in terms of technical skills, competencies. Then we were talking about motivation, and that is the human-centered kind of aspect of productivity. Then we were talking about the tools and equipment. We were talking about automation these days, artificial intelligence, robotics, and all that. So these are factors that will affect productivity. And when all these come together, they influence the final level of productivity in the organization. So this brings us back to the traditional concept of hierarchy of needs in motivation. All right. Hello. Hello.
We can hear you, sir. We can hear you very well.
Yes.
Great. And as you all know, that hierarchy of needs, starts with the physical needs. There is something wrong here. The physiological needs, the social needs, the self-esteem needs, and self-actualization. I think something went wrong. Please ignore this is a very popular, self-esteem. This is a very popular concept that you all know. So don't worry for the mix-up. So at the very bottom is the physiological needs. Then security. Then we are talking social. And then self-esteem and self-actualization. When you are able to achieve everything that you are capable of achieving, you say you have attained self-actualization. Self-esteem is, your personal, your estimation of how you are valued. And social is having relationships with others, the security, and then physiological. Now to this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 has been added recently, the transcendence need. All right. That is the level where metaphysical issues come into play. All right. So apart from satisfying our basic needs, our social needs, and self-actualization, people have now moved into transcendence, where we are looking at even space. We are looking at religion. We are looking at giving back to society. We are looking at sustenance of the environment. So we've gone beyond self, and we are now looking at a wider kind of range of needs. The first 4 needs, once satisfied, the employee becomes kind of motivated, and it ends there. But when it gets to self-actualization, the more you get, it's a growth kind of concept. So the more you get, the more you want to get. Man is never satisfied with what he has. You understand? And transcendence is taking us into another sphere altogether, where we are looking beyond self, looking at society, what we can do for society, and even looking at God and what we can do to please God. So we've gone beyond the traditional concept of the hierarchy of needs as provided by Maslow. All right. And so in coming up with employee value proposition, we should have this at the back of our mind, that we've gone past the five levels of needs to a sixth one, which may not even be measurable, but we know it exists. Come to think of a situation where a whole minister of state, after a number of years in politics as a minister, goes back to a small village where goes back to his origin, the small village where he was born, and he's competing with village folks to become the chief of the village. For what? What is it that we want? We've risen to the highest. We have realized or achieved whatever you are capable of achieving, and now you are going to be a chief of a small village, a small community, whatever form. But it's all because we want to give back to community. We want to give something back to society. And so this is another level of needs that we may have to reflect in our employee value proposition. Any question at this up to this point? Hello? Hello? Hello, class. Can you hear me?
Yes, we
We
can.
can hear you. Right.
Very well. Very well. Very well.
We
Thanks.
can hear you. We can hear you.
Great. And so, like the 3 E's concept in every human endeavor, or say a factory situation, we are looking at the inputs, we are looking at the throughput, and we are looking at output. The throughput stage is where the human factor counts most, where the employee gives off his best based on his level of motivation and the extent to which the employer is able to meet the employee value proposition. All right. The same concept is reflected here. Economy. So the economy with which you acquire inputs for the business, the efficiency with which you transform the raw materials into final products, and the effectiveness of the effort in terms of the return on the investment, first and foremost. So then we are looking at the extent of satisfaction of the owners, the shareholders of the company. And we are looking at how employees are satisfied and how the community itself is benefiting from the whole exercise. And all these revolve around the concept of motivation, which is embodied in the employee value proposition. All right. The more motivated an employee is, the more efficient he will be in delivering the mandate of his position in the organization. And that will impact eventually on the effectiveness with which the business has delivered its mandate as a whole. All right. Like I said, the human factor is most impactful at the efficiency or the throughput phase. And that's the point where the EVP, the employee value proposition, kicks into the equation. Now, performance. What is performance? This refers to how effectively an employee fulfills their job responsibilities and contributes to the goals and objectives of the organization. It encompasses a range of behaviors and competencies related to the job duties, and this will include quality and quantity of work produced, efficiency, teamwork, communications skills, and adherence to company policies. These are all elements that influence the employee's performance or delivery of his duties, which will eventually impact on efficiency and ultimately productivity. So you are a good performer when you are able to meet your performance targets at the end of the day. You know, every duty in a job description has a deliverable. And with that deliverable, you have a performance indicator, a performance measure, and ultimately performance targets. When you're able to meet your targets, then we say you have performed well, and then we reward you. Hello? So for an employee to perform, he needs motivation, and that motivation is reflected in the employee value proposition. All right? They may have all the skills, all the competencies, but if they are not motivated, they will not deliver. You may have all the equipment, you may have the capital and everything, but if employees are more motivated, they cannot deliver. And so we have always maintained as HR practitioners that the most critical asset of any company is its human resource. If the human resource is properly tuned, then the business will deliver. So performance is very important. And you know, when we talk performance, we are looking at performance at the employee level, but we're also looking at performance at the unit level, all the way to the corporate level. So there is a line of sight between the employee as the smallest unit of production, all the way through the unit, the department, the division, to the corporate level. All right? Here, when you talk duties in a job description, you are looking at what the job holder is expected to perform or deliver. And competencies refer to how the delivery is done. So when we answer the question how, we are looking at competencies. And when we talk about what, we are looking at the duties that have been defined in the job description. Right? They go together. The what and how move in tandem to deliver the mandate of the position that the job holder holds. So what are the benefits of employee value proposition? One, it attracts top talent. That is to say that a strong employee value proposition can help a business put its best foot forward and capture attention of top talent, while poor employee value proposition can have the opposite effect. If you are not attractive, nobody will come to you. All right? And so it's been discovered from research that 65% of candidates reports that they have actually discontinued a hiring process because of an unattractive employee value proposition. They'll show the initial interest, all right, come, go to your website, go to all manner of places to research about your employee value proposition. And if it's not attractive, they will leave. They will discontinue with the process. And according to Gartner, 65% of candidates discontinue when they discover that the EVP is not attractive enough. So essentially, it attracts top talent, the best of talents. Two, it retains employees. A compelling employee value proposition can keep employees around longer. And again, Gartner research reveals that effectively delivering on the EVP can decrease annual turnover by 69%. If your EVP keeps improving, then they are likely to stay longer. We have already indicated that the factors, the variables that feed into the employee value proposition may change with time. And so what you offered at the beginning of the relationship may no longer be relevant as we march on, because so many things have taken place in the economy. It also drives loyalty. When employees have a good employee value proposition, they become loyal to the company, and they become part of the company's fabric, and they will stay forever with the company. Indeed, in one company in Ghana, After an employee has retired from the company, each year at Christmas, the company sends a package to them if the relationship was terminated honorably. Okay, that way they also serve as ambassadors of the company. Wherever they go, they speak well of the company. The loyalty is forever during employment and even after employment. So EVP drives employee loyalty. Again, it reduces costs. When the EVP is attractive, employees tend to be committed to the company, and that commitment fuels the level of engagement of an employee, and that can help minimize recruitment and training expenses. It means that the retention rate is high, and therefore you don't have to go out to the market every so often to recruit. You know, recruitment can be expensive. Headhunting, the normal advertisements, the various selection methods, including assessment center, simulations, and all that, can increase the cost of recruitment and increase operational cost of the company. And therefore, when you have loyal people who are committed and work for life, work till they attain their compulsory retirement age, then you can save costs in terms of recruitment. Okay. It improves trust and transparency. By proactively communicating the benefits of working for your company, you lay the foundation for transparent and honest relationship with the employee, and this fosters mutual trust. There is a need for trust between the two parties to the employment contracts, the employee and the employer. And when there is a good employee value proposition, that trust is consolidated, and the parties become honest and transparent to each other. We are in it together. We swim or sink together, all right? Now, let us look at some of the factors that should be taken into account in formulating employee value proposition. The culture and identity of the company. At times we are attracted to a company just because of the culture, just because of the identity, just because of the brand, all right? Then we are also interested in researching and listening to existing employees, the extent to which they are satisfied with the current employee value proposition. Then we also have to analyze and conduct surveys on remuneration of staff in the various companies within the industry or within the sector. Then it shouldn't be a one size fits all. So you want to identify, you want to segment employees into groups and find out what appeals to them most. You cannot have one overall employee value proposition. Those are at the top, maybe all right, but down there they will be dissatisfied. No, lower down the hierarchy, they are interested in salary, what they take home. Beyond that, well, they are not bothered. As you move up, they are looking at flexible working hours, working from home, share option in the company, scholarships for their children, the school going age and all that. So it varies from one class to the other or one group. So you should be able to identify and segment the key employee groups. Then you define the value proposition and communicate the value proposition to your staff and to the outside world, and align the EVP with the employer branding. Eventually, your employee value proposition will serve as a huge contributor to your employer brand. And then once you have done all this, we need to monitor and adapt. Like I said, it's ambulatory, it's evolutionary, it keeps changing. Our expectations keep changing as we march on. So we should be mindful of the need to monitor and adopt. And when you talk about culture and identity, we want to understand your organization's mission, vision, core values, and culture. Culture of a company can attract or drive away prospective employees. So what is your mission, the reason for your existence, your vision, your dream over a period of time, then your values, your beliefs, and then the culture. And this will set you apart from other competitors. It tells them what you intend to achieve and how you want to go. We want your employees to feel about working with you. So what sets your company apart, which is attractive? What do you aspire to achieve in terms of your mission and your vision? The reason for your existence and the short or long-term vision. And how do you generally want your employees to feel about working for you? So culture of the company is very important. There are healthy cultures and there are unhealthy cultures. A sense of family, a sense of, putting the worker first can attract some employees. All right. The culture in the mining industry, for instance, they talk about tons, they talk about ounces, and they talk about what cost. For them, the three principal considerations in working for a mining company is to think of converting tons of ore-bearing rocks into ounces of gold, and at what cost? So they don't have time for finesse and elitism. No, go get the gold. You don't mind. So higher education, all manner of qualifications don't matter to them. At the end of the day, have you been able to convert the tons of ore-bearing rocks into ounces of gold that we can sell on the international market, and at what cost? All right. So the culture in the mining industry is different from, say, the banking industry, where we are looking at finesse, we are looking at appearance, we are looking at dress code, we are looking at the soft side of things as against the hard, In coming up, in proposing an employee value proposition, like I said earlier, we need to conduct surveys, interviews, identify focus groups, and obtain feedback to understand what current employees value most about working for your organization and the extent to which they are satisfied with the existing employee value proposition. This search may include compensation and benefits, work-life balance, career growth opportunities, and company culture. The Canadian story I was telling you, career growth opportunities is very important for a lot of employees, regardless. And if you are talking career growth opportunities, then you are talking about succession planning, career development, and a very fluid system of progression and terminal points. If this is clear to them and it will be implemented in a very robust manner without fear or favor, then they want to stay with you. So listen to your employees. The comparator surveys, look at companies in that space, that ecosystem. Look and keep an eye on industry trends and best practices in employee engagement and retention. So for so many companies, year after year, salary surveys or conditions of service surveys are conducted, and then the results are submitted to management for consideration with recommendations from the human resource department. In the world that we live in, change is the only constant. And so Jack Welch of General Electric once said that this day and age, if you are not confused, then there must be something wrong with you. Because everybody is confused. Things are changing so fast. There are so many things happening around us. So our value proposition today may be relevant tomorrow. So we have to conduct regular surveys to identify industry trends and best practices. Like I said earlier on, we need to segment employees into categories and recognize their different needs and tailor the employee value proposition to their needs. So will we say that we can segment our staff into, say, three, executive management, middle management, and then, the lower levels, and have three different employee value propositions? For instance, millennials might prioritize career development opportunities and work-life balance and flexibility. The Generation X and perhaps the Ys will prefer stability and benefits. The generations after the Second World War, the X and Ys believed in loyalty and staying with one company or holding on to a job for life. They will not move. They will forever stay with you. They are loyal to you, and they are part of you. They are part of the family. All right? But the younger ones do not believe in that. So a research finding indicates that for the millennials, the longest they will stay with an employer will be 5 years, and then they will move on. They come to work with you, they enrich their CV, and then they move on. The Generation X will stay with you forever. So between the two, but then you have them at the workplace. And so how do you propose or come up with the employee value propositions that resonate with the different segments of your workforce? So food for thought. We cannot have a one-size-fits-all kind of employee value proposition. All right. Then, after all these considerations, that is based on the research and analysis, you articulate the key elements of your employee value proposition. And invariably, we are looking at the compensation and benefits. All right. The quantum, the size of the salary, the applicable benefits, the allowances, opportunities for growth and development, supportive work environment, meaningful work, recognition and feedback, and work-life balance. So it's an equation with several variables. Like I said, beyond a certain level, people are, no longer interested in compensation per se, but they are interested in what they can contribute towards society, what they can give back to their communities. Now you haven't come up with the employee value proposition, singular or employee value proposition for different categories of staff. You want to communicate your employee value proposition to your existing workers and to will-be workers and to the world at large. So you need to develop a clear and consistent messaging to communicate your employee value proposition, both internally and externally. This may call for you updating your company website, creating marketing materials, utilizing social media channels, digital marketing, integrating your employee value proposition into your recruitment efforts. Tell them as they come, as they come for the various selection processes and ultimately interviews, communicate your employee value proposition to them. Then align your employee value proposition with the employer brand. ensure that your employee value proposition aligns with your employer brand and is reflected in all aspects of the employee's experience, from recruitment, onboarding, all the way to engagement and the retention efforts. There should be an alignment. You cannot tell me you are the best employer, the employer of choice, and yet when we come in, so many things that apply to your competitors don't apply here in your company. Then as you journey on, you want to monitor and adapt. So employee value proposition is not a static concept. It should evolve over time to reflect changes in the organization, the workforce categories or demographics, and external factors. So changes are taking place within the organization, within the expectations of your own workforce, and then the external factors, and you need to adapt. And Charles Darwin says that it's not the strongest of species or the most intelligent, but those who are able to adapt. So don't hold on to your employee value proposition as a sacred kind of tool that cannot be touched, that cannot be changed. It must continuously be reviewed and improved to attract and retain employees. And then get feedback from your employees. Examine market trends and refine your employee value proposition. So it's continuously evolving and changing, and we need to adapt to them. And of course, bearing in mind the cost of that to your overall operating costs. So for instance, in the banks, we look at staff costs as a percentage of total operating expense or expenditure. So it's a balancing act. As you journey on, you review the context of all the changes taking place within the ecosystem, within your workforce, within the local environment. But at the end of the day, find out whether adjusting it upwards in terms of cost will not collapse your business. Survival is very important. So by following the foregoing steps, organizations can develop a compelling employee value proposition that attracts top talents, engages employees, retains employees, and ultimately contribute to their overall success and competitiveness in the marketplace. There is a gentleman called Von Braun, and he came up with the concept of organizational reputation quotient. And what we've been talking about this morning revolves around that concept, organizational reputation quotient. And in that quotient, he talks about the financial performance of the organization. Prospective employees will research your background, will go to your website, they'll ask for your financial statement, study it, and find out whether indeed you are financially sound. You are not a wobbling company, a company approaching insolvency. And so then, depending upon what they find out, they want to come to you. You have an attractive reputation quotient. They are also looking at leadership and the core values of the company. Values influence culture, all right? But the leadership, the stronger the leadership, the more likely the company is able to achieve its objectives, all right? So we need a strong leadership. And you remember that when Barack Obama came to Africa, he said something very interesting. His first visit to Africa after becoming the president of the United States. He said that at this stage of our development and political history, we don't need strong leaders. We need strong institutions that will drive nations. When you bring it to a company's level, there is that we still have those two legs, strong leadership strong system, strong institutions, all right? Which one will you prefer? Leaders will come and go, but if you have a strong set of systems running the business, then they are likely to say, well, if they are applying all these systems effectively, your policies, your procedures, then I'm likely to be sure of the future and work for the company. Strong leadership, yes, but the leaders will come and go. But for me, after listening to him and reviewing a lot of situations in Africa, in countries in Africa, I came to the realization that he was wrong. We need both at any point in time. We need strong leadership and we need strong systems. All right? You cannot have one at the expense of the other. If the managing director of a company is a weakling, then the structures may be there, but he will not be able to apply them. And indeed, in Africa, you go to a number of countries, beautiful laws passed, legislative instruments passed to operationalize the laws, but they don't work. They are not enforced, depending upon who is at the helm of affairs. So at the company level, the same thing. You may have beautiful setup, policies and procedures, regulations, rules, everything, but if you don't have a strong leader. And so some of prospective employees will be looking at the style of leadership, others will be looking at the existence of systems. Then others also have sentimental attachment to certain companies. When I was a child, I lived in a small village, and the only bank there was Barclays Bank. And the staff of the bank were always neatly dressed, very professional in outlook, the language, the comportment, and everything. I said, how I wish I could work for such an institution when I grew up. So when I grew up and went to the government was giving us loans, so I took a loan. And there were cheaper banks to save monies with. You know, had the savings and stuff. There was a bank in Ghana, basically taking nothing, no commission. You just deposit your money there. At any time you wanted your money, you went back for it. Barclays at the time, relatively, was charging for services, commissions and fees and all that. Very expensive. And yet, because of that sentimental attachment to Barclays Bank from my youth, I opened a bank account with Barclays Bank, and I still do. It's a matter of sentimental attachment to certain institutions. Then others are attracted by ambience, the mere ambience of the place, the neatness, the color combination, the air conditioning, the furniture. Okay? And then, of course, the culture. You've talked about healthy cultures and unhealthy cultures. So from Bruce's paper or concept of organizational reputation quotient resonates with the concept of employee value proposition. If an employer is coming up with all these strong financial performance,